if anybody's curious, the picture is on the screen. The kid in the upper right-hand corner with the gray sweatshirt is Dan, and you probably don't even recognize him. Hey, Dan, you want to wave?
Yeah.
And Evan is the little kid holding, what kind of trophy is that?
It's a big trophy.
What do you, it's a huge trophy, but was it like the college cup?
Nick knows that.
The NECA Cup, the Northeast Collegiate Hockey Association.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering who Evan is, as a grown man, Evan, say hi.
Hi.
Awesome. We've got a pretty good crowd here. Should we kick it off?
Up to you. The anticipation is starting to kill me a little bit.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. We'll see those cute faces a little bit later, and so yeah, let's get this going. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Caroline. I actually work for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and for those who aren't familiar with our agency, we partner with under-resourced families to provide their kids with transformational, one-to-one professionally supported relationships with a caring adult mentor so that their children can reach their full potential. We have a program that's kind of like the classic community-based program, which everybody tends to know Big Brothers Big Sisters for, and that's a program where we match littles between the ages of 7 and 12 with bigs and professionally support that match until the little turns 18. And during this time, we use a framework called the 6 C's. And the 6 C's is a framework that we use to measure our success as it relates to kind of the different aspects of positive child development. So those 6 C's refer to social and emotional competence, curiosity, character, connection, caring, and confidence. And so we ask matches to commit to seeing each other for 1 year, and on average, our matches actually last about 3 years. And what we know from doing this for 70 years is that the longer our matches stay together, the more benefits come from that friendship. So for tonight, I thought it'd be actually really interesting to talk with a couple of our long-term matches. And so these are matches that where kind of the littles have aged out of the program because they're over the age of 18. Actually, they're both 21, but they're still connected after 13 years. And so I thought it'd be really curious to explore some of the long-term benefits of mentoring and, you know, non-research, qualitative, understanding kind of what happens when a big and a little, you know, stay together for 13 years. So we're lucky enough to have 2 long-term matches here. These littles aren't so little anymore. You're actually grown men. So for this conversation, we're going to refer to you as mentees, and we're going to refer to the bigs as mentors. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Chris, and he's going to both moderate the conversation as well as participate in the conversation because he's one of the long-term bigs. But before I do that, I just want to ask everybody to put themselves on mute, except for the panelists, of course. And also just a couple of logistics. I'm going to be actually monitoring the chat feature. So please submit any questions using that feature at the bottom of your screen. And I'll be monitoring that, and we'll have actually plenty of time at the end for Q&A. If folks actually want to take themselves on mute during that time as well and ask their question verbally, by all means. The other thing I was going to recommend is I think it might be good to put your view on speaker view. So in the upper right-hand corner, so I know there's a lot of people who are actually on this call, and so you can actually see the person who's speaking at the time. Go ahead and click on speaker view, and I think that might be, I think it might make the experience a little bit better. So that being said, Chris, I'm going to hand it I'm going to hand it over to you. So just prepare yourself, you guys, for a really awesome conversation. I'm super psyched about it. And I'm going to turn the reins over to Super Big Chris.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Caroline. First, before I get started, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here. It'll be a special moment for myself, Nick, Evan, and Danny to share our story and experience. Really is a true testament to the efforts of both Danny and Evan, Nick, and myself. I think to be here today to share this, because of all the dedication we've really shown each other over these years, culminating to this moment, and we're really happy to be here. But figured I'd start with a quick introduction. My name is, of course, Chris Laux. I am originally from Central Massachusetts. I went to school at Boston University, and I'm currently living still in Boston in the North End. Nick?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm Nick Sisler. I grew up originally in Vermont, moved to Boston to come to school at 18, and shortly after moving here, became Evan's big brother, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Daniel Catalan. I'm 26 years old. I'm from Brazil originally. I moved to the U.S. when I was 10 and matched with Chris when I was about 12, 13 years old. And it's been 13 years now since we been matched beyond the program. I'm now living in Everett, Mass. It's just a little bit north of Boston. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Evan?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Evan. I'm calling in from Cambridge. This is where I grew up, and this is where I'm still living today. I'm 21 years old. My big brother's name is Nick. I went to Cambridge Ridgeland High School, and then now I just finished 2 years at community college, and I'm transferring to Berea College as a 4-year school. Nick and I were both paired in November of 2007, which makes it nearly 13 years now. My mother introduced the Big Brothers program to me because she thought that she was raising me as a single mother and thought that it would be beneficial for me to have a father figure in my life that I could hang out and learn from as I got older.
Awesome. That's great. Well, Evan, you kicked off the question there on just talking a little bit about what was going on in your life that, really felt like it was time for a mentor. Dan, do you want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going into middle school at the time, transitioning from elementary. I was probably 14, 13, had my first job where I was hanging out with the older crowd, and probably not going down the right path. Also, being raised by a single mother could be tough. So she saw the benefit in the Big Brother, Big Sister program to sort of have that role model and father figure to sort of guide me towards the right path. And being, I believe, also an immigrant and also being raised by a single mother, I don't think in the real world I would ever have become friends with someone like Chris. Coming from a family, well-off family in a nice part of the city or in a nice part of town, going to a good school. So the program really brought us together in that sort of aspect.
Yeah, that's great. Evan, so kind of geared to you here, and as you know, not as many matches unfortunately last as long as ours, and so kind of curious, thinking back to when you were first matched, what was it like in general? What were the main activities that you and Nick participated in, and when did you really feel that you bought into the program and became fully engaged?
Yeah, so one of the things I learned about Nick when we first met was that he was athletic and enjoyed sports just like me. So one of the ways that Nick and I first connected and got to know each other was through playing sports outside. There wasn't much talking at all at first because I was shy at the time and I wasn't old enough to have sophisticated conversations. So some of the activities that Nick and I did was like throw a baseball or a frisbee or kick a soccer ball around. Probably climb some trees here and there, but I can't remember for sure.
Awesome. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, so I think one of our biggest similarities was sports. We started playing video games, to playing basketball outside, to going to the soccer field and kicking the ball around a little bit. Also attending baseball games such as the Red Sox. So I think we really had a bond with sports, and that's probably what brought us together closer and closer as the time went.
Yeah. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I think Evan covered some of it. Yeah, I think we were both pretty bought in early on. Evan's mom was super supportive of our relationship, and yeah, we started out. In addition to what Evan said, we went on a lot of bike rides together. We went ice skating. I think I really helped Evan learn how to ice skate, and he went on to become a hockey player. He and his mom were like the biggest supporters of. So I played hockey in college, and they were like our biggest supporters. Came to almost every game, and that felt really good to have them, so bought in early on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, for me, when I first met Danny, I wasn't really too sure what I was going to kind of get out of the relationship. I remember the first time I met him, we walked across the street to a McDonald's and sat down and ordered him a McFlurry. And I just tried to get a couple words out of him, and just nothing was coming. And it was like a long 45 minutes, kept going and going. And I drove home, and I go to my parents. I'm like, what did I just get myself into here? But as the relationship progressed, a lot of sports, a lot of activities, golf, soccer, baseball, basketball, video games, all type of fun things. And I definitely felt that I was pretty bought in right away. Both of my parents actually came from divorced families where they're the oldest sibling. And so, they really instilled in me early on that, the importance of having someone in your life that can really help you. And I felt like it was a great opportunity to do so. And I'm very excited that I, kept that going. So, Dan, how do you think our relationship, in your opinion, has evolved over the years?
Certainly for the best. I think the more and more Chris got involved in my life, also with, that goes without saying, like college, career choices, to, the smallest thing, to, like playing video games or something even smaller. But, we talk every day, even now that I'm 26, before the whole pandemic. After work, or on the weekends, we used to meet up, have a couple beers together, hang out. And it was just something that really sort of became part of my life. Not only that, but I think I got more involved in his life too. I would go over to his house, even when he wasn't home, just to be with his mom. Also goes without saying, his sister invited me to her wedding, which is a huge part of someone's life. So it sort of overflows, that influence sort of overflows to something bigger than just between Chris and I. And that's what's really great about this program.
Evan, what about you?
Well, the relationship between Nick and I evolved with kind of having me with being a certain age where I was in school. So when we first met, again, there were a lot of sports, no talking. That's basically how we got to know each other first, through sports. And then this is about when I was in elementary school. And then towards the end of elementary school, there was a little bit more talking. So now we were using verbal communication to get to know each other, and through sports as well. And through middle school, the conversations got more sophisticated, and I was beginning to ask him about questions about life and like what he was doing in college and what he wanted to do and for his career. And it was kind of more in high school. Then I started asking him more sophisticated questions about life, like relationships and, career advice and how to connect and talk to people about that. Like one of the things he was teaching me when I was in high school was how to shave, which was pretty cool, and I thought that was important.
Yeah, for sure. Nick, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I think Evan obviously has matured a ton in the 13 years I've known him. When we first met, he was 8, and I think he was about half my height, and now he's taller than me. So that's been a pretty big change. He's way more, like, socially way more mature. Like, it's when we hang out, it's more of just like we're friends now. We can talk about anything. He's very thoughtful and yeah, just a good, solid, understanding friend. Whereas before, it was much more like I kind of had to like have something planned all the time, or else you just have too much energy and kind of go wild.
Yeah.
So now he's matured a ton over the years, and it's really been an amazing experience to see him grow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me, when Danny first met and him having come from just having a mother in his life, and no other siblings, I tried to figure out how to balance being a friend, a mentor, and a father figure all at the same time. At first, I didn't really know how to do that. If we start off, playing games and trying to be the cool guy that Danny would starting to trust and start sharing a little bit more deeper stories as that trust grew. And, he kind of faced some more adult decisions as he kind of, moved along with his life. And I thought that the progression from a friend and mentor and father was truly a balancing act for quite a while. And now, as it's all kind of morphed together, I can truly just say me and Dan are just true lifelong friends that I feel that, he can come to me for anything he needs, but we can also just have fun at the same time, which is, of course, extremely important. But so Dan, right, to you here, you faced a lot of big decisions in your life. There's, of course, many decisions that you're going to face going forward. And can you just talk about a time in our relationship where I might have helped you through a milestone or two, maybe been the bumper in a bowling alley, just trying to help you, guide you along the way? And what avenue do you think you might have taken if you did not have me as a mentor in your life for that decision specifically, potentially?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest example I could give was probably just finishing college. I took the rather longer road. It took me about 5 to 6 years to finish a 4-year degree, but Chris was always there to make sure that I finished with a 4-year degree. There were times where, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I wanted to enlist in the Marines or the Army. And even though I know Chris wanted me to get the degree, he still supported that decision. Although it fell through and it didn't work, I continued going to college and ended up getting the 4-year degree. And that's because Chris would always tell me, to stick at it. You're almost there, keep going. And that was probably one of the biggest things too. Along with, after getting the degree, was the career searching, job searching. He helped with resume, cover letter, applying to jobs. I would give him a couple job applications that I was interested in. He called up his buddies, his network, and connected me with them. You know, and then he would say, hey, you know, if you like it, that's great, move forward with it. If you don't, then there's always something else. We can keep looking, and I'll be there to help you through the process. So it really was, it was a weight off my shoulder per se, with Chris there by my side to kind of help me through that process.
That's awesome. Evan, what about you?
Well, Nick came to my high school graduation, and I liked that very much. And what Nick does, well, Nick and I, we both care a lot about the environment. And he has a job where he's working and help save the environment by building software to help build eco-friendly homes and measure data. And it's something that I'd like to do. So with Nick having that career, it motivates me and motivates me to do something similar for my career.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, Nick, so question for you, you know, can you think of a time maybe when the tables were turned and, you know, you found yourself kind of being the mentee versus the mentor at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been privileged to watch Evan kind of go through a lot of challenging periods in his life, particularly kind of the middle school years. He struggled a little bit. He actually had a learning disability. And I've watched him like fight through a ton of adversity and work really hard. And I remember like around like 14, 15, I would call him or text him to see if he wanted to hang out, and he'd be like, no, not this weekend, I got a lot of work to do. So I just saw the kind of shift where he like really started working hard and to make sure, you know, his life was gonna get on a good path. And he actually like got, you know, really improved a ton, got through high school, started taking honors classes, graduated, and did really well in high school, and now has finished 2 years of college. So it's been, I think it's inspired me, one, to just like work harder to achieve my goals. And also it's given me some, you know, some empathy to like have some appreciation for, you know, the challenges that other people have faced to get where they are.
Yeah, you kind of took some words out of my mouth on that one. You really do. It's pretty humbling experience to see individuals face, you know, some sorts of adversity that you might not have to or have had to in your life, and just kind of see how they assess it and progress and, you know, take chances. And it kind of motivated me to just be a better person and appreciate a lot of the little things. But I guess I also wanted to share a story too, just kind of the far reaching of this program. I was actually talking to my dad a couple weeks ago, talking about that we had this call coming up, and he mentioned that, you know, he would just watch me and Dan hang out and just see how we interacted together, and we talked through challenges and all that good stuff. And he told me that he actually took some notes and maybe adjusted the way that he treated me and raised me as his son and mentor and father figure. So kind of interesting to see how it all plays out, and that you know, the mentor and mentee relationship extends pretty far, you know, which is a cool thing. So Evan, question for you. How do you define your you know, relationship now? I know it might be tough for some people, especially if you're introduced by Nick to somebody, or you're introducing, you know, Nick to somebody else.
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to how our relationship evolved. So at the first part, it was kind of more like mentor and mentee, and then as we like got older, it's kind of more like equal. So it's like friends. And before, you know, our adventures would come through ideas from the Big Brothers program, like Nick inviting me to go to a Bruins game or to the Big Brothers picnic. And now with me being older, I kind of know some other adventures that we could have. And so it's kind of, I can invite him to some things, and kind of more just friends instead of him there as a purpose for teaching me things and mentoring me. It's kind of more like friends now.
Absolutely. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, whenever someone asks me what I'm doing, I'm hanging out with Chris. I say, "Oh, I'm gonna hang out with my big brother." They're like, "Oh, I thought you were an only son." I'm like, "No, that's my brother from another mother." So then that's when I kind of get the conversation started. You know, if they question more, then I sort of get into more details about the program and how we met. Just kind of give an overview of how we matched. But you know, it's come to the point I think where he's just a big brother, really, from another mother, and it's been a great journey so far. So I'm blessed for that, and to to have Chris as a mentor since 13.
Absolutely. Nick, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, now I introduce Evan as my friend, and if people, ask how we met or something, then I'll kind of go through the backstory of the program. In the early days, though, I would definitely like pretty much always say he's my little brother from the Big Brothers program. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it kind of explained what it might otherwise be an unusual relationship on the outside.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course, I've dealt with the same thing, and for years was just like, this is my little from the Big Brothers program. Said it
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of times, and it was just exhausting by the end of it. But so I guess I can gladly say, no, it's just my friend Dan. And then of course I get excited to tell him the story.
There's definitely some confusion over the years too. I'd say like my little brother, and that she only had one brother, and he was like a lot closer in age to you.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. But Nick, this one, I know you and me have faced this question, but many times we hear from potential volunteers that they don't really think they have enough time for the program.
Yeah.
Can you share your thoughts on the overall time commitment? Do you feel like it is a lot of time, and how did this feeling kind of evolve for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a time commitment. Big Brothers recommends bigs and littles hang out like every 2 weeks for like a few hours or so. So it's a time commitment, and spread out over 13 years, it ends up being a lot of time. But I think it's been a great use of my time. I've learned a ton over the years, and had a lot of fun. And I think I've helped Evan grow into the man he is now, and I'm really proud of that. But I think you can find time, like when Evan and I first met, I was a freshman at MIT playing 2 varsity sports, just moved to Boston from a dirt road in middle of nowhere, Vermont. And I was able to like figure all that out and find plenty of time to hang out with Evan. So, I think once you get involved and you make a commitment to it, you find the time, and it doesn't end up being that big a deal. And it ends up being fun and something you look forward to.
Yeah, no, 100%. Definitely after the first time I met Danny and the McDonald's experience, I was like, oh man, like this feels like a lot. It definitely felt to me like up front that there was a time commitment, because you had to schedule kind of hangouts and figure out what to do and when to do it, and what you're fitting it into your original schedule. But I think the thing for me was it quickly became a passion and something I wanted to do. And once it kind of hit that level as a part of my life and something that I really deeply cared about, time did not really matter whatsoever. And I wanted to do things with him and that I would have done with any other friend. I mean, I can't even count how many times we played mini golf. So it was fun for me, beating him all the time. Well, maybe. But I guess, yeah. But I guess this will bring us down memory lane here a little bit. Dan, over the whole time that we've been matched, what do you think has been your favorite moment?
I mean, they've all been pretty great moments, but I think the best moment was Chris being there for my graduation. Was probably one of the greatest thing that probably happened, just because even though it took 6 years, he was there throughout the by my side throughout the whole journey. So it was really excited to not only get the degree for me, but for him. So that's what really mattered in the end. So that was really emotional and a good thing to come by.
Yeah, sure was, bud. Evan, what about you?
My favorite part was probably when Nick's hockey team won the championship, because it meant a lot to him, and I was enjoying watching him play and all the action in the game. And not only that, but they won back-to-back championships. So they won 1 year after Nick left, after Nick graduated. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I bet that was. Nick, how about yourself?
Seeing Evan graduate from high school was pretty special. Knowing how hard he worked to get there. It definitely wasn't like when he was 12, 13 years old, it wasn't a certainty that he was going to graduate high school. So it was pretty special to see that. And then the hockey championship was super special for me, and it was awesome to have Evan share that. Like I said, he had been to more games than any other fan, I think, in the 4 years I'd been there. So it was amazing, and he came out on the ice. And I think there's a picture at the start of the show of us right after we had won the championship. So that was pretty special.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think for me, I mean, Danny already hit it, but seeing him graduate college was probably by far my favorite moment. I think it was a kind of a culmination moment of everything we've been through together. And I had kind of selfishly set a goal that, I felt like I had failed as a mentor until he got a 4-year college degree. Just, I truly felt whatever path he wanted to make, I was very, very proud that whatever, he wanted to do, but just feeling that core of education could really set him up for kind of, a great opportunity in life going forward. And seeing him walk down that aisle, getting the diploma was extremely rewarding and humbling at the same time. That's all we have for the questions. Caroline, I got to throw it back to you for now.
So the chat has been pretty active. So
Right.
I'm just going to start with an awesome question from Andrew. So this is actually a question for the littles, the mentees. I'm really interested in how you've developed such a wonderful sense of confidence and ability to speak in settings like this. So first of all, he's super impressed. So he has been matched with a little for 5 years now, and still struggles to open up and working towards kind of like his confidence in social settings. So were there like any like activities or experiences with your bigs that helped you build the confidence that you actually have right
Awesome
now?
question.
Yeah.
Who wants to start?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my experience was sort of just let my guard down with Chris from what he said that, first time we went to McDonald's, I was quiet. He would always be the conversation starter, and I'll kind of just nod my head yes or no. And over time, I sort of just let my guard down and began trusting him and learn how to communicate with him and just sort of keep the conversation going. And obviously using that through, college, career searching, and just social life, kind of brought it all together. And, it makes me feel more comfortable doing that in a larger setting with more people.
Yeah, I would say it definitely helps to find something that both the mentor and the mentee they enjoy, like sports. That's something that will probably never get old. Mentors and mentees could get to know each other well through sports. Also, again, I was pretty shy when I met Nick, but being with Nick all these years, I met a lot of people because when we would go to these big brother, big sister programs like parties or like get-togethers before going to a Red Sox game. That I would meet a lot of people who gave us the tickets or would help set the thing up. So meeting all those people definitely helped me become more courageous about talking to others, and especially in settings like these.
It's awesome.
That's great. And so I see actually a theme here. So, so I think between kind of the question that Mike and Jesse asked is I think just around kind of the future of your relationship. So like so here you are like right now, you're almost like peers at this point. Like where do you see, what is the future of your match? Where do you see your match going from here?
Who's that going
And I
to?
hope everybody, yeah. And I hope Jesse and Mike, I did that justice.
Oh, I guess I can try. Let's see. I mean, leaving Cambridge and going to school is going to be a tough thing for Nick and I, because we like to hang out. But also, given the pandemic, it's given us practice to feel like what it's going to be like to keep up our relationship with not being able to hang out and throw frisbee. So I think connecting virtually, Nick and I have been doing that, which has been helping, and we've also been playing online games against each other. So yeah, I don't now, because of the pandemic, I don't feel worried that we would connect less if I were to move out of Cambridge to go to school.
Dan, do you want to go, or I can go?
Yeah. I see us being, eternal friends from here on out. It's something that's going to stick with me forever, having Chris as a mentor. And Evan, actually brought up a good point. Given the pandemic, every week we're still texting each other, talking to each other. Unfortunately, I was furloughed during the pandemic, so my first call was to Chris. I said, Chris, this is what's happening. This is what they told me. What do I do? And he's like, this is what you have to do. We'll figure it out. And that was it. And then my second call was to my mom. So it kind of just goes to show, how big of an impact Chris has had in my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're doing great. Don't worry about it. I think for me, it's going to definitely continue to have a friend aspect to it as we progress through our own lives. I'm definitely excited to help Danny whenever he's paying for his taxes, or learning about about credit cards and just kind of those essential life things that we all need to know and take care of. I definitely want to be an advocate and guidance for him, but I think as we get older, it's just going to truly be a open, evolving friendship, and full of trust, and just having a lot of fun at the same time.
Awesome. All right, Nick, did you want to say something, or I actually have another really good question?
Sure. Yeah, it's gonna be really sad when Evan moves away. I think Evan, did you decide you're going to Berea College? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to school in Kentucky officially. So that's gonna be sad. But I'm sure we're gonna be friends for the rest of our lives. So we'll stay in touch.
That's awesome. This is a great question from Omari. So given the recent events on racial injustice playing out in the news, he's curious on how you've handled discussions on complex and emotional charged issues like race and injustice. So any advice that you'd give current matches on how to navigate the current environment? It's a big question. Anybody who wants to kind of address that, and I can certainly jump in from an agency perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say first off on the topic, I'm still thinking about good advice, but first off, I think the program is very important. A lot of matches are across racial and socioeconomic boundaries, so I think it helps to improve our the ties of our society and break down some of those barriers that exist, which I think is really important to prevent some of the things that we've seen in the last few weeks and months.
Yeah, definitely a great question. I don't know if I have like the best answer for it. I know me and Danny never really kind of got down to the nitty gritty ourselves talking about it. But I think, a lesson could just be learned and taught through the experiences together. I guess an example that I would give, whether this is totally on target or not, is, Danny, when we were younger, he would just, take me to a Portuguese speaking only restaurant in Framingham. And I walk in and, it's just a bunch of chefs and people who don't speak English. And it was a very humbling experience for me, just kind of seeing how other, people are and what other cultures are like. And to me, it kind of broke down, maybe not even a judgment or an understanding barrier of just kind of just understanding other cultures and being very comfortable. And through that experience and becoming more comfortable with other types of individuals and backgrounds, that itself has taught me great lessons on how to interact with people from different backgrounds as well going forward. So I think the program is really strong in the sense that it provides opportunities like that for you to immerse yourself and be part of it. And if you're willing to jump in and be comfortable in those situations, I think you kind of learn along the way without words even really having to be said.
Jan, coming from a family of immigrants, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I might have touched on it at the start of the call, but I think all my friends from middle school through high school, they were also Brazilian or an immigrant. So I never really had a close friend, like someone, from a upper class sort of family, in the suburb. So the program kind of brought Chris and I together when in the real world we wouldn't have been friends per se. So it was interesting to see, from that perspective, his growing up as opposed to mine, and sort of the path that he wanted me to take to just be overall successful.
Yeah, and I'll just say, from an agency perspective, the reality is that 70% of our littles are kids of color. But what's interesting is that 70% of our bigs are Caucasian. So we internally have a racial equity committee. So we're super focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion within our agency. And we have provided many resources to bigs to help. Oh, hi, little girl. To help to help them have these conversations with their littles, because the reality is sometimes it's awkward. And so we actually have a weekly email that goes out on Fridays because we're now in this kind of virtual world. And so the email that's actually going out tomorrow, so there's any bigs actually on the phone, you're going to get this email tomorrow. And it's literally going to be resources and helpful tips around how to have these conversations with what's going on right now. So we realize it's part of our world. We realize the dynamics right now of our matches, and we need to provide the tools and the resources for our bigs to support our littles through this. So I'll just add that.
Yeah, and I like to also point out the biggest culture shock for me was when I was first introduced to peanut butter and fluff. It's huge. I probably had my first peanut butter and fluff when I was 14, Chris?
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard of that in my life. And then I was like, I'm packing peanut butter and fluff in my bag next time I go to Brazil and introducing everybody to it, because we didn't have that in Brazil at all. So that was huge.
It changed your life.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, let me just check the chat one more time. Oh my God. So Amari still hasn't a peanut butter fluff, so you are missing out.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I think that we've addressed like all of the questions. If anybody wants to, so we have like 34 people on the line. If anybody wants to take themselves off mute and ask a question verbally, by all means. Oh, hold on a second, I just got 3D messages. So funny.
I think someone asked how old you have to be a big.
To be a big,
Yeah.
you have to be. So we have programs that are where we partner with colleges in like all across like Eastern Massachusetts, and so that's a program which is kind of like weird right now with COVID. But for the most part, you have to be 18 years old to be a mentor in our program.
Can you be older than 18?
OMG, of course.
How old is like too old?
I'm gonna say that our oldest mentor is in his 80s.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm not 80.
Yes.
So that's
Yes. So it's actually really interesting. So I absolutely love that question, because like because I was like Deanne and Evan and Chris and Nick, like they talked so much about like playing sports, you know what I mean? And like they were like super young when they were like matched together. I think some of our best mentors are mentors that are like 50 plus. I think they have so much to kind of bring to the table, right? They have patience, they have a lifetime of experience. So there is absolutely, let me make it clear right here, right now, there's absolutely no age limit to being a mentor in our program.
great. Thank you.
All are welcome and all bring amazing benefits as a mentor.
Thank you.
And we also have kids, like we have boys that, you want to know what, aren't really into sports. They're into science and they're into gaming and they're into cooking. And we also support LGBTQ kids. So there is like, we have a mentor for every kid, and we have a kid for every mentor. So that's an awesome question. And I thank you for actually asking that, because yeah, we've been talking a lot about like, we've been talking a lot about sports, but you know, not every kid is like into sports. And it's so funny, Evan, when we were first kind of like talking about like how this conversation was going to go, I was like, you're so like chill. You're like, you're so chill. And I guess when he was a kid, he had the, Nick, you told me this. He had this insane
He is bouncing off the
energy.
walls.
Bouncing off, like crazy, insane, bouncing off the walls. And I was like,
Yeah.
you're talking about the same kid? Yeah.
Times have changed.
Awesome. That's a great question. All right.
Caroline, I
That's
have,
not good
I have
timing.
one more question for these guys. Just,
Go for it.
I know there's probably no special sauce to like the length of time these relationships have lasted, but what's like either like a highlight or I guess an ingredient to your matches that you think are so key to the longevity of them? I guess it's to anyone who wants to take it.
Great question.
I think for us, there were a few things. Like logistically, we just stayed close together, or close to each other, so that made it easy. And Evan's mom was super supportive of our relationship. I think another thing that was really important was just being patient with each other. And there were definitely times like, you know, those times when Evan was bouncing off the walls, when I was not having the greatest time being Evan's big, but
To say the least.
but I, you know, stuck with it, stayed patient, and there were even then there were a ton of bright spots that overwhelmed the trying times. And yeah, sticking through it, I'm really glad I did.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it definitely is. It definitely requires a willingness to be open from both sides, and a commitment to you know, to stay open with each other as much as you can. And I think from a mentor perspective, having a long-term outlook as well, because there's going to be ups and downs as you kind of grow and experience your relationship with your little, and trying to just see how that evolves, you know, over time. And but I think definitely deep down for me, it was just the passion that we both had, and you know, being friends, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I know you can't really quantify what that is, unfortunately, but it just felt like it was there. And that's really what kind of helped us kind of develop such a strong relationship over the years.
Awesome. We have a few more minutes. And I guess I just want to, so that was like absolutely awesome. And I really want to thank everybody. I want to thank Evan and Nick and Dan and Chris. That was amazing. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. My true hope is that those of you who are on the call that are not already bigs have actually been inspired to get involved. So, you know, during these times, I feel like our mission is like more urgent than ever during this period of isolation, lack of social interaction, the impact of COVID-19 on the communities that we serve, and centuries of dealing with racial inequity. These kids need us right now. So you have the ability to make a difference. You can defend the potential of a kid in your community. And I literally just posted a link in the chatter. And honestly, like we talked about the time commitment a little bit, and that's kind of like our classic program, but here we are, right, in this virtual world. So honestly, there's really no excuse. And I'm just gonna like put it out there. There's no, you know, there's literally no better time. So as an agency, we've been lucky enough, and we've been in a position where we have completely shifted our application, our enrollment, and our matching to be completely virtual. So now in this virtual world, with the program that we're offering, with the hope that it transitions into this, you know, kind of classic program that Evan and Nick and Dan and Chris are in. But right now it takes 30 minutes a week from the comfort of your couch. So I posted that link in the chat. To initiate an application literally takes like 30 seconds, and somebody from my team will reach out to you to walk you through the process. But also, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm just going to put up my contact information here, just so everybody has it. And I want to thank everybody. You want to know what though? I just kind of like, I want to stop for a second, because there was actually one question. So hold on one second. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to kind of like keep on talking for a minute here, because there was actually a question about, from a mom whose kid is in the program, and is struggling with kind of like this whole kind of like virtual thing. So could you guys have like some advice for her on how you guys are staying connected virtually.
How old is the kid?
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me just look at the. And I'm totally
9?
so.
Is it Lovette?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Lavette, if you want to take yourself off mute, by all means.
Yes, it's me.
Hi, Lavette.
Hi. So what it is he just got matched in December,
Yeah.
and like right around Christmas time. So then it was Christmas break, and you know we went on vacations or whatever. And then he's a very shy, quiet kid. He doesn't talk to anybody but me. And he finally started coming out of his shell when he met Kevin, and they go places. He can't wait for when he knows he's coming. He asks me all week long, when am I going with Kevin? When am I going with Kevin? And then he goes with him, and then COVID came. So now he's like regressing. And I don't know what.
Have you tried, have they done some video chatting or phone calls or anything?
Yeah, I tried to, we're working on that now. We haven't done that yet. He did call him, and he spoke with him on the phone. But again, he's like a shy kid, so he's not really a phone person. So he'll sit there on the phone and breathe. And I don't want to waste his time, you know?
Yeah. What about games? Does your son, does he play any games on the computer or on a phone or something?
All day long.
Yeah, maybe they might be able to play some games together. Evan and I have been playing like a couple hours a week of just like this phone game, and then we'll chat about it afterwards.
Yeah, I'll try that.
My little is so unbelievably shy, and so when I Zoom with her, she doesn't put it on video, and when she does, I see from here up, so it's pretty challenging. But she's like super smart, and she loves to spell, so we play Hangman online, and I noticed that it really kind of like pulls her out of her shell. But I'm wondering if there's anybody from Match Support still kind of on the line that can take themselves off mute, because we have so many resources, and we have learned a lot from kind of like this shift to virtual. So I feel like at this point we have like a lot of best practices that are age appropriate for to support kids when it comes to kind of like structured activities. And I feel like with kids that are like super, super shy, like the structured activity is kind of like the way to go. Yvette, do you know who your Match Support person is? And I can have them reach out to you. If there's anybody on the line from Match Support that's still on the line that wants to unmute, please, by all means.
Yeah, I think it's Hillary.
Okay, all right. I know, it's a challenge. It is, it's a challenge, and a lot of our bigs and a lot of our littles are struggling, but I feel like we're learning more and more about how to keep these matches active, as well as supporting. And I don't know if you were on kind of like the beginning of the call, but those positive outcomes when it comes to kind of child development. So all of the kind of activities and resources that we're putting forth is like focused on those positive outcomes. So I will make sure that Hillary reaches out to you, because I think there's a lot that we can do, and there's a lot of ideas that we have that we can try.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, Jesse, you just had an idea. Do you want to take yourself off mute and share it?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just sharing. It was actually reposting Andrew's idea. There's an online game called codenamesgreen.com, and it's kind of like a word guessing game. And I know, I mean, my little brother is in general shy and certainly very camera shy. And so being able to play a game where I actually keep myself on video, but he turns himself, the video off, has been a nice way for us to connect and play games. We've also started doing virtual workouts together, because one of the things that like he always likes to do is play sports, and if we can't go outside to play sports, we've organized a way of working out together via video chat, and that's worked well for us.
And it looks like Ryan posted some online games too on Google Docs. So but I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of ideas that we have that could really help there. And I know it's not ideal, and it's not our ideal. I mean, to see the positive outcomes that come from our programs is to see each other in person. And, we're going to get there at some point. But I think there's a lot that we can do, and a lot of good ideas and best practices that we've come up with at this point over like 2.5 months to at least stay connected. Sorry, Andrew, did you have something? All right. So this was awesome. This was amazing. Chris, Nick, Dean, Evan, thank you so much for sharing. This was really, really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And Livette, I'll make sure somebody reaches out to you.
Thanks, Caroline.
And don't hesitate to reach out to me directly for any reason.
All right. Thanks, Caroline. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.